Toronto Raptors general manager Bobby Webster was just profiled in the NBA's 40 under 40, and they projected some major changes coming to his role as his career progresses in the NBA. So we'll discuss that, including Scottie Barnes getting disrespected in recent rankings with guys like Franz Wagner, Cade Cunningham, as well as Evan Mobley, other players in his draft class getting rated above him in the latest NBA 2K ranking. So we're going to dive into whether or not that makes any sense whatsoever, because Scottie Barnes obviously the key is the star for this Toronto Raptors team and has been an all-star, has been the rookie of the year of that class, but continuously gets disrespected by these different rankings across the NBA, now including NBA 2K. So we're going to dive into all of that in this video. Before we do, folks, again, if you want to stay up to date with all the latest Toronto Raptors news, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. But let's dive into it. The first topic. Firstly, NBA Insider projects a major change for the Toronto Raptors, specifically Toronto Raptors GM Bobby Webster. So if you're not familiar and you might say, hey, Masai Ujiri is the GM, what's going on? Masai Ujiri is the president of basketball operations. There's a couple other titles too, with the Toronto Raptors here now at this point. The actual GM of the Toronto Raptors is Bobby Webster. And if you're not familiar with him on the front, he's a young guy, and apparently was the man that was really the lead facilitator of the Kawhi Leonard trade. So essentially, Bobby Webster's a nice history, been with the Toronto Raptors for a very long time, and just got profiled as in terms of one of the young executives in the NBA that got some recognition. So we'll break down here now. Essentially, John Holliger came out and said that Webster has been with the Raptors GM for 7 years now at this point, despite his youth, and has helped navigate the organization to an NBA championship in that time. He's seen as one of the league's brightest executives, even as he sits at number 2 in the Raptors organization behind Vice Chairman and Team President Masai Ujiri. Webster worked at the league office as a collective bargaining agreement long before he came to Toronto. He's respected enough and has been successful enough in Toronto that he should get a chance to run his own team at some point. Masai Ujiri said as much himself in 2019 after the Toronto Raptors' first NBA title. So this is a very interesting sort of comment that John Holliger, again, nice that Bobby Webster got that praise, got that credit, for his, experience in the NBA, the different stuff that he's doing. But of course, the Toronto Raptors want to keep the brain power as many of these guys as we can, for your own rights to keep Bobby Webster making decisions, making big trades. I know some people are very critical of what the Toronto Raptors have done in recent years, but Bobby Webster is a guy that, again, only 39 years old, which is insane to say. He's about Garrett Temple's age, younger than some of the players after dealing away, that Kawhi Leonard, DeMar DeRozan trade, all those types of things. And is a guy that, might have that higher aspirations, higher ambitions. And having him in-house is a positive, especially there with him alongside Masai Ujiri. And it feels like Masai Ujiri, despite the rumors that all of these other NBA franchises want him to be their president, GM, whatever the role might specifically be, Masai Ujiri seems like he's going to stay in Toronto for the long term, even though it felt like a couple years ago he might leave. And now, we'll see about his future. So, if Bobby Webster's looking for a promotion to be the lead guy, out there in the organization, it might be tough with Masai Ujiri still in the mix for this Toronto Raptors team. But if that's not the case, Masai Ujiri does end up leaving. I see Bobby Webster's, that change coming to that president position. But if Masai Ujiri ends up staying, and it's with the organization long term, especially with where this is coming from, even Masai Ujiri saying itself, Bobby Webster, I wouldn't be shocked if this is what John Holliger is essentially saying, could end up departing to be that number 1 guy on his own NBA team. So again, not something that's immediate, imminent, or anything along those lines, but something to keep a lookout, especially as the Toronto Raptors front office continues to try to rebuild this team and move in a specific direction. But let me know what you guys think about Bobby Webster's future of the Toronto Raptors. Do you think it makes sense for him to look for a higher role or being the GM of the Toronto Raptors? Is that a solid enough sort of position, especially for a guy that's 39 years old? But let's dive into the next topic discussion, as we have a wild Scottie Barnes ranking that has come out, as basically, NBA 2K, NBA ratings and stuff, they're always all over the place in terms of things that are going on and things like that. But Scottie Barnes has established himself. He's been an all-star, been a two-way guy. He's just won the rookie there. He's established himself as the best player in that rookie class that he was a part of. But these rankings, these lists continuously come out and rank him below where he really should be. And I know I don't want to overreact and get too crazy with stuff, but and put out these ratings in terms of things that are going on. Again, I'm struggling with this stuff in the new setup, but essentially they came out and revealed the list of players. And Scottie Barnes is rated an 85 overall, alongside Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, Alfred Şengün. But ahead of him in these rankings, ahead of him in these lists, is Evan Mobley, DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Franz Wagner, Jalen Williams, and Cade Cunningham. A bunch of players. 6 guys that are ahead of Scottie Barnes that I think is pretty crazy. I think it's pretty lucrative that that's kind of going on there. And we can dive into the numbers. We can dive into the stats in terms of what's going on with these guys. So Scottie Barnes last season averaged 20 points per game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Team that has been more competitive in years past. 1.5 blocks per game, 1.3 steals. Shot 34% from the three-point line, was ridiculously hot before getting the end of the season, dealt with some injuries and stuff. But Scottie Barnes handed the number one option, was that number one guy, and on a team that wasn't as abysmal as the Detroit Pistons are one of those squads. And we can compare this to other guys. Evan Mobley, 16 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, and then less blocks and steals per night. Really regressed last season for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Didn't have much of an impact and is continuously injured out there on the court. The only thing, statistically, feels like he does better than Scottie Barnes, just looking at it, is 1 extra rebound a night and incrementally better three-point shooter, but on a smaller volume. So that's one thing to really take into account. 37% you see in the three-point percentage, but it is a much smaller volume than what Scottie Barnes is taking. I mean, 30% of all Scottie Barnes shots are from the three-point line, so Evan Mobley isn't even close to that. So, that's Scottie Barnes there. Evan Mobley getting somehow ranked ahead of him. Then you also have Franz Wagner, who, again, does average an extra point or so, but 5 rebounds, 3 assists, doesn't have the defensive acumen by any stretch of the imagination compared to Scottie Barnes. You might say, Ben, Franz Wagner, better shooter, one of those types of guys. European, this type of stuff. Well, you know what? You'd be wrong. You'd be wrong in terms of Franz, because this man shoots 28% from the three-point line and 22% on corner threes. 22% on corner threes. And this dude, yes, incrementally better scorer than Scottie Barnes, does nothing else better on the offense or defensive end. Is just a bad three-point shooter on the wing out there in the NBA, shooting the same volume of shots. In what world can you rank Franz Wagner, especially after watching the playoffs? I mean, if you watch the NBA playoffs and watch Franz Wagner absolutely choke, absolutely look horrible out there in a bunch of those games against the Cleveland Cavaliers, it's the fact that he's an 86 above a lot of these guys is just really silly to me. It's silly. I don't want to come out here and be a bit profane and stuff, but that is legitimately stupid, the ranking that they have Franz Wagner over Scottie Barnes. So that's enough of me talking about that. But there's other guys on this list in terms of that are ranked higher than Scottie right now. Cade Cunningham, again, his statistics are pretty good. Defensively, doesn't have what Scottie Barnes is available to, but does put the ball in the net and is a better three-point shooter than Scottie for sure. A little bit higher volume than Scottie as well. Still a young guy. Like Cade Cunningham, talent-wise versus, intangibles and stuff, he's the one guy that I can, the Pistons are so bad, it's disingenuous to look at these stats and say, oh, he's guaranteed better and all that type of stuff. But Cade, I do still think is NBA talent. I'm not going to dive too much into Cade Cunningham here. But this Derek White stuff, man, him being an 86 ranked over Scottie Barnes as like the 5th option on the Boston Celtics. I get it. He's Team USA. I get it. He was on the championship winning squad and he hit some clutch shots and is a better, spot up three-point shooter. But all of the stats are significantly worse than Scottie's. And we've seen Derek White with more of a role out there in the NBA. So it's not like, oh, Scottie Barnes, number one option. It's a higher volume, all that type of stuff. Derek White was a role player. He was on a San Antonio Spurs team that was depleted of talent, just a couple seasons ago. Derek White is not close to the talent, to the skill, to the physical intangibles of what a Scottie Barnes is able to provide. What Derek White is better at is three-point shooting, being a spot-up shooter. He's a quicker sort of on-ball defender, right? Scottie Barnes, even though he has the athleticism and size, is still developing in that area. I get it, you might say role player intangibles fit, all that type of stuff. But in terms of talent, in terms of ratings, you're putting a single rating out there on one of these guys. Derek White should not be higher than Scottie Barnes. And I know some people might debate that, but I still think that's silly. Jalen Williams is another guy, but we won't dive into that here or there. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about the Scottie Barnes disrespect. You guys have been making it so far. Subscribe to the channel. I'm signing out. Cheers.